Hi, I'm Patrick from Last Records, and today I'm looking at influencers doing genuinely stupid things just to go viral. It didn't make sense to me at first until I looked into these cases, and it's worse than I expected. From swallowing razor blades during a live stream stunt gone wrong, to secretly carrying a live crocodile in a duffel bag for content that ended in the most unexpected way possible. It was March 14th, 2017. In Raleigh, North Carolina. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of a laptop fan and the soft click of a camera being adjusted on its tripod. Daniel Ferris, 34, worked part-time at a print shop and ran a small magic channel in the evenings. He had around 5,800 subscribers. His signature performance was the razor blade swallowing trick, a classic sideshow illusion he had mastered perfectly. The method involved dulled blades with the edges ground flat, careful preparation, and a retrieval technique using a length of thread tied to each blade and held between the teeth during the swallow. I wonder why people go this extreme just to go viral. Shockingly, he had never had a serious problem with it. For a Thursday evening live stream, he decided to attempt 5 blades instead of his usual 3, hoping the more extreme version would bring in more viewers. 17 people were watching when he went live. By the time he began the stunt, the number had climbed to 43. And this is where I need you to pay attention, because that viewer count climbing is exactly what started unraveling everything. Because his viewers count have been climbing all evening, he rushed his preparation to get to the stunt faster. His dulled performance blades and his unused stock blades were kept in separate cases. However, while monitoring the chat and adjusting the camera, he had opened the wrong case first and mixed both sets together on the table while reorganizing. He did not check each blade individually before beginning. And I want you to note that he did not check a single blade. The first 3 blades went down without incident. The 4th followed smoothly. He reached for the 5th. Under the stage light, his grip shifted slightly as he palmed the blade. He did not register the change until it was already past his lips. A sharp and specific pain moved down his throat, different from anything he had felt in his past performances. Not the dull pressure of a prepared blade, something with an edge. He knew immediately that something was wrong. And this is the part that gets me every single time I think about it. He kept his face level anyway. The viewer count was at 43, and the chat was moving. He completed the retrieval and kept smiling at the lens. When he drew the threads back out, there were 4 blades. 1 thread came up unweighted. He closed his hand around what he had and held the smile until the stream ended. After he ended the stream, his throat burned in a line running down into his chest. When he swallowed, he tasted something thin and metallic. He spat into the bathroom sink. The saliva was pink. He assumed the irritation was minor. And guess what he decided to do? He drank a glass of water and went to bed. I genuinely do not understand that decision. By midnight, the burning had spread, as it should. Swallowing became painful enough to wake him. He sat up and waited. The pain did not ease. By 2 a.m., it had moved deeper into his chest, and his breathing had become difficult. He sat on the edge of the bed for a long time before he accepted it was not going to pass. He decided to go to the hospital. And this is where things took a devastating turn. At the emergency room, imaging confirmed a perforation in the esophageal wall and a metallic foreign body lodged in the surrounding tissue. The delay had allowed gastric contents and oral bacteria to enter the mediastinum. Surgeons operated immediately, but the contamination had spread through the tissue surrounding the esophagus and into the chest cavity. Despite surgical intervention and intensive treatment, the infection progressed. Daniel Ferris died 4 days later from mediastinitis. The medical examiner listed the cause of death as infectious mediastinitis following esophageal perforation. The video was taken down from the platform. Seriously, I still wonder why he kept smiling just for views, despite sensing something has gone wrong. But this next one, I find it genuinely disturbing. It involves a man who had already been redirected twice by his escort, had a signed agreement in his pocket, and still stepped across the line the moment he saw the shot he had been chasing for 2 years. It was March 22nd, 2016, in Atlanta, Georgia. The airport was already busy by morning. ground crews moving across the apron as engines and equipment filled the air. Raymond Chucky, 41, ran a small channel about airports and aircraft with around 6,400 subscribers. During the week, he worked as a freelance videographer. In his spare time, he filmed aircraft operations on aprons and inside hangars for aviation enthusiasts and nervous flyers who liked understanding how airports worked. For nearly 2 years, he had been trying to film a clear shot inside a jet engine intake with the fan blades visible, but every attempt had failed. And honestly, I understand that obsession. When you have been chasing one specific shot for 2 years, the moment you finally see it in front of you, your brain stops processing everything else. That morning, he had been given permission to film a routine aircraft turnaround at the airport. He was given a temporary pass, a signed access agreement, a high visibility vest, and hearing protection. A senior ramp agent was assigned to stay within arm's reach of him the entire time. Before they stepped onto the apron, the escort walked him through the safety rules. He pointed toward the engine intake and explained the danger zone. Nobody was allowed inside that arc while an engine was running or starting. The suction during engine startup could pull a person into the intake faster than they could react. Raymond nodded and signed the agreement. And this is the part that gets me. The escort had already redirected him twice during the shoot for drifting too close to the stand boundary. The aircraft on the stand was a large, wide-body passenger jet. Catering and fueling were complete. The pushback tug connected to the nose gear, while the headset operator linked the cockpit and ground crew. The chocks and safety cones were removed. The crew chief walked the perimeter, confirmed everything was clear, and gave pushback clearance. The tug began pushing the aircraft slowly back from the gate. As the aircraft moved, one of the engines swung around to face an open lane on the apron. The angle was clear. No vehicles, no barriers. From just outside the painted arc, Raymond could already see straight into the intake, the large fan blades sitting still inside the dark opening of the cowling. It was exactly what he had been trying to film for 2 years. He raised his camera. He told the escort he would just step closer for a second. A second closer was all it took. And before the escort could respond, Raymond had already stepped across the arc. The escort moved after him immediately, closing the distance. But Raymond was already past the point where a shout would stop him, and the apron surface gave no grip for a fast grab. I don't think taking a risk like that was actually worth the shot. Trust me, it wasn't. The cockpit requested engine start clearance. The crew chief scanned from his position near the left wing, but the fuselage blocked his view of the far engine side where Raymond had crossed. The headset operator checked the visible ramp area, saw nobody in the marked zone from his angle, and passed clearance to the cockpit. The start sequence began. Compressed air from the auxiliary power unit began spinning the turbine inside the engine. The large fan blades at the front started to turn slowly. Fuel went in. The engine lit. It began building toward idle, and the air being pulled into the intake increased with every second. I have thought about this sequence a lot. Every single person doing their job correctly, but Raymond was standing exactly where he should not have been. And this is where things became irreversible. Raymond leaned forward to frame the blades more clearly. The increasing suction pulled against his chest and face as he stepped closer. His foot slipped on the smooth apron surface, and the airflow pulled him forward before he could recover. He went into the intake head first. The spinning blades did not slow when they met him. His body came apart inside the engine. The upper half was pulled through and separated from the lower half, which dropped to the apron beneath the intake. The escort could not reach him in time. Ground crew gave the emergency abort signal the moment it happened. The headset operator cut through to the cockpit immediately. Fuel was shut off. The engine began winding down, but kept turning for several more seconds. Airport emergency services reached the stand in under 2 minutes. The surrounding ramp was shut down, and the aircraft was taken out of service. Raymond Chucky was pronounced dead at the airport. He was 41 years old. What stayed with me about Raymond is that the escort was right there at arm's reach, but it still wasn't enough. The next one is so unsettling and makes me wonder how far people are willing to go for likes and views. This one involves a man who bought a juvenile Nile crocodile at a street market, put it in a duffel bag, and then opened that bag inside his hotel room. And I promise you, it gets worse from there. It was November 17th, 2016, in Brazzaville, Republic of Congo. The Rivertown Market had been running since early morning, vendors moving between stalls of fish, livestock, and caged animals along the waterfront. Dami Ose, 29, ran a wildlife and exotic animal channel with around 6,200 subscribers. His videos focused on reptile handling, exotic pet culture. He had filmed himself handling Nile monitors, venomous snakes, and juvenile crocodilians, always speaking calmly to the camera while explaining behavior and technique. His audience saw him as fearless. I want you to note something. Fearless is a great quality for content, but it is a terrible quality for survival. He had traveled to the region specifically to film a new series. While filming at the animal market, he came across a juvenile Nile crocodile roughly 3 feet long, kept inside a plastic fish crate with rope across the lid, alongside several other reptiles. He purchased it on the spot. He planned to feature the animal in a live handling video once he returned home, something he believed would draw far more attention than his usual content. He did not declare the animal. He did not have an approved transport crate. He placed the crocodile inside a reinforced duffel bag, pulled the zipper shut, and tied the handles together with cord. The animal stayed quiet during the drive away from the market. He filmed a short clip in the vehicle, explaining to his audience that a major reveal was coming in a future episode. I need you to understand what that means. He smuggled a live Nile crocodile across a city in luggage, and you might think that was the hard part. But later that evening, inside his hotel room while preparing for the next stage of travel, he opened the bag slightly to check on the animal. And this is where I genuinely cannot explain the reasoning to you. The crocodile twisted sharply inside the confined space. Without the rigid walls of a proper crate to restrict its body, it had room to generate torque. It rolled hard against the fabric, and the zipper strained as the bag flexed under the movement. Dami reached forward and tried to pin the snout through the opening with one hand, but the bag was not in a controlled condition. It restricted his reach as much as it restricted the animal. I think he wasn't prepared for what came next. The crocodile seized his right forearm as he leaned in. The jaws locked, and the animal immediately went into a death roll. The torque of the roll against the fixed grip tore through the muscle and soft tissue of the forearm in a spiral pattern, stripping the tissue away from the bone. A deep arterial vessel in the forearm ruptured under the torsional force before the animal released and dropped to the floor. Blood pulsed from the wound with each heartbeat. Dami stumbled back against the wall and went down. He wrapped his arm with whatever he could reach, but the pressure was not sufficient to control the bleeding. The crocodile moved toward the dark gap beneath the bathroom door and stayed there. Nobody came immediately. By the time a staff member passing the room noticed blood seeping under the door and called for help, Dami had been on the floor for some time. Emergency services and local wildlife authorities were called. Paramedics entered the room and found Dami unresponsive on the floor, the arterial wound to his forearm having bled without adequate pressure for too long. Resuscitation was attempted. Dami Ose was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 29 years old. Investigators confirmed the animal had been transported without permits and without the rigid ventilated crate required under international wildlife transport regulations. And the funny part to me was that the crocodile just laid beneath the bathroom door and was recovered by wildlife officers. The animal that caused all of this was the only thing in that room that walked out fine. So, Dami Ose paid for that crocodile, carried it to his hotel, and opened the bag himself. But this next one frustrates me even more, because Jordan Mays walked into a gym that had every safeguard he needed and spent his morning removing them one by one for the sake of a perfect camera angle. It was April 3rd, 2015, in Denver, Colorado. The gym on South Broadway was quiet on a Saturday morning, a handful of regulars working through their sessions while music played low from a speaker near the front desk. Jordan Mace, 24, worked part-time at a sporting goods store and ran a small powerlifting channel with just over 3,000 subscribers. His content was built around what he called honest lifting. No camera tricks, no edited rest period, every attempt shown exactly as it happened. The channel had barely grown in months, and Jordan had been thinking about how to change that. That morning, he had announced a 315-pound bench press personal record attempt. He spent more time positioning his camera on a tripod at the foot of the bench than he did warming up. And that right there tells you everything about where his head was that morning. He was more focused on the perfect angle than the lift itself. The gym had several power racks along the wall with safety arms that would have caught the bar if anything went wrong. Jordan looked at them and decided they blocked the view of the plates from the camera angle he wanted. He dragged the flat bench out onto the open gym floor instead. 2 regular lifters told him to use the rack. Jordan laughed and said the rack would ruin the shot. 2 other people agreed to spot him, but Jordan asked them to stand further back than usual so they would not appear in the frame. They moved back. The setup was already worse than it should have been. Then Jordan made one more decision. He left the collars off the bar. And this is the one that frustrates me the most. He had seen a debate online arguing that during a failed bench press, removing the collars allowed the plates to slide off the bar, reducing the weight and making it easier to escape. He had decided this made the lift safer. The bar now held 4 45-pound plates and 1 25-pound plate on each side. Nothing was holding any of them in place. The camera was recording. Jordan lay back on the bench and gripped the bar. The spotters stood further back than they should have, just outside the camera frame, watching. Jordan unracked the bar and lowered it steadily toward his chest. The weight came down under control. The bar touched his chest. For a moment, the press began moving upward, and I think about those few seconds a lot, because in that moment, it looked like it was going to work. The bar was moving, and then it stopped halfway up. His elbows flared outward as he fought to push through the sticking point. The right side of the bar tilted slightly as his strength gave out unevenly. The plates on the right sleeve began to move. The outer plate went first, sliding off the end of the bar and hitting the gym floor with a sound that stopped everyone in the building. The rest of the plates on that side followed in the same second, crashing down one after another. The sudden loss of all that weight on the right side threw the bar violently off balance. The left side was still fully loaded. The bar twisted hard in Jordan's hands, and the loaded left side dropped hard, crushing his neck before the spotters could close the distance from where he had asked them to stand. They reached him seconds later and pulled the bar away. Other lifters ran toward the bench. Several plates lay scattered across the floor where they had bounced after falling. Jordan was on the bench and not moving. I cannot imagine what that morning looked like for the people who were just there to train. Gym staff cleared the area and called emergency services. Paramedics arrived within minutes and found Jordan unresponsive. He was transported to hospital but did not survive. He was 24 years old. The video was never uploaded. Jordan Mace had moved the bench away from the rack, sent his spotters out of reach, and stripped the collars off the bar because he wanted the shot to look right. And that decision cost him everything. You would think people would learn, but trust me, they don't. Because this next one is an influencer who decided to perform a surgical procedure on herself on camera to prove that clinics were overcharging for something she could do at home. It was February 9th, 2016 in Houston, Texas. The apartment on Westheimer Road was tidy and well lit. A ring light set up in the living room and a camera on a tripod aimed at the small table where Nia did most of her filming. Nia Kelly, 27, ran a beauty channel with around 4,000 subscribers. Her content was built around a single idea. Expensive cosmetic procedures had cheaper alternatives, and she was going to find them. She called the series Why Pay More? She tested everything herself before recommending it, which was the reason her viewers trusted her. She had tried budget chemical peels, at-home microneedling rollers, and DIY lash lifts. She had filmed all of it and posted all of it, and nothing had gone seriously wrong. But I must say something here. A chemical peel and a needle going into your face are not the same category of risk. For the newest episode, she had ordered a DIY lip filler kit from an overseas website. The package arrived in a plain padded envelope, Inside was a pre-filled syringe containing a clear gel labeled only as dermal filler gel, with no ingredient list, no manufacturer name, and no dosage guidance. A small tube of numbing cream was included alongside an instruction sheet translated so poorly it was barely readable. And I need you to picture that instruction sheet for a second. No ingredients, no manufacturer, barely readable instructions. And then she just glanced at it and set it aside. The tutorials she had watched made the process look straightforward, and she trusted those more than a badly translated sheet of paper. She had watched 4 YouTube videos of other creators injecting their own lips, and all of them had been fine. Clinics charged hundreds of dollars for something that looked this simple. That was the entire premise of the video. And honestly, clinics do overcharge for a lot of things, but a needle going into my face is an experiment I won't want to try. Her younger sister set up the camera and pressed record. Nia opened the episode the same way she always did. She held up the kit and told her viewers that what they were about to watch cost her less than a makeup palette, while clinics charged several $100s for the exact same result. She said the tutorials made it look easy because it was easy. She was selling it to her audience before she had even picked up the needle. That's scary to me. She applied the numbing cream and waited for it to take effect, talking to the camera the whole time. Then she picked up the syringe. She aimed for the upper lip border, following the angle she had seen in the tutorials. What the tutorials had not explained, and what Nia had no way of knowing, was that the upper lip sits in a region of the face with critical arterial connections running close beneath the surface. And this is the part that genuinely unsettles me. She was following instructions from people who she wasn't sure of. Unfortunately for her, the needle entered a vessel, and filler was pushed into it under pressure. The gel moved through the vascular system in the direction of least resistance. The skin around the injection site turned pale and mottled almost immediately. Nia noticed it and frowned at the camera, saying the area looked a little white, but that it would probably settle. Over the next minute or two, the discoloration spread, and she said there was pressure building behind her eye. Her sister, behind the camera, laughed, assuming she was playing up the reaction for the video. And I understand why she laughed. Nia had always been fine before, but everything became serious when Nia said the vision on one side had gone dark. Her speech slowed and became imprecise. She put her hand to her face and went still in the chair. Her sister called 911 within minutes. Paramedics arrived and found Nia conscious but severely disoriented, with sudden vision loss in one eye and slurred speech. She was transported to hospital immediately. Imaging showed findings consistent with vascular occlusion following filler injection, with evidence of embolic stroke affecting part of the brain. The damage was severe and irreversible. Nia never regained full consciousness after the first night. She died 2 days later. She was 27 years old. That's the part I found more tragic. And guess what? The video was never uploaded, all for nothing. But this next one is the one that genuinely unsettled me, because Zara Obi was a qualified pharmacist. She understood exactly what carbon dioxide does in an enclosed space, and she still told her boyfriend it would be fine. It was September 14th, 2016, in Lagos, Nigeria. The private spa complex was booked for the evening, just the two of them. Zara Obi, 28, worked as a qualified pharmacist at a private clinic in Victoria Island. She ran a lifestyle and wellness channel with around 4,500 subscribers, built around what she described as curated living. Her videos covered luxury experiences, health trends, and carefully staged moments designed to look effortless on camera. She was a pharmacist. She understood the science behind the products and trends she discussed. She said so regularly, and her viewers believed her. And that is the part that I personally find hardest to reconcile about this case. She had the exact knowledge that should have stopped this from happening. That evening, her boyfriend had rented the spa for her birthday celebration. Zara began filming within minutes of arriving, moving around the pool, recording the reflections of the lights across the water and the steam rising from the surface. While filming, she thought of something she had seen online. Dry ice dropped into warm water produced a thick white fog that spread across the surface. She told her boyfriend it would look incredible on camera. He drove to an industrial supplier nearby and returned with 26 pounds of dry ice. The supplier had mentioned when he collected it that large quantities should not be used indoors without adequate ventilation. Her boyfriend passed this on when he returned. Zara told him it would be fine. They dropped the first pieces into the heated pool. The fog began rolling across the water and spilling over the edges, but it was not dramatic enough. She told her boyfriend to add the rest. This is the decision that I cannot get past. Adding more ice in an enclosed room with the doors shut. Without hesitation, he dropped the remaining dry ice into the pool. Dense white fog poured across the water and onto the surrounding floor and rose slowly toward waist height. The spa room was enclosed with the doors shut to retain the heat. The ventilation system was designed only to manage humidity through slow air exchange, not to clear heavy gases accumulating at low levels. Carbon dioxide is denser than air. It settled and built from the floor upward. When large quantities of dry ice contact warm water, they release carbon dioxide rapidly. At sufficient concentration in an enclosed space, carbon dioxide displaces breathable oxygen faster than the body registers danger. The gas has no smell. There is no visible warning. The first symptoms arrive as dizziness and a feeling of heaviness in the chest, which are easy to dismiss as heat or exertion. And as a pharmacist, Zara knew all of this. That is not me speculating. It's basic pharmacy. She just wanted the perfect video. It wasn't long. She felt dizzy while she was still filming, perhaps 10 minutes after the last of the dry ice went in. She mentioned it to the camera, laughing and saying the fog was stronger than she expected. She kept filming. The dizziness became worse, and her chest felt heavy. She lowered the phone. She turned toward the entrance. Her boyfriend was already on his knees beside the pool. They had both been breathing the displaced air for too long. Neither of them made it to the door. Paramedics entered the building and found both of them collapsed near the pool. Resuscitation was attempted on both. Zara Obi was pronounced dead at the scene. Her boyfriend also didn't survive. The cause of death was carbon dioxide poisoning, leading to oxygen displacement. And the thing that stays with me about Zara is that she was the most qualified person in this episode, but on that evening, it made no difference at all.